So Kat and Taylor are working across schools, industry and advocacy. So I am on the board, I'm the chair for Wellbeing Australia. We have taken positive proactive wellbeing for all Australians through life cycles, so it's not focused on one particular area, but it's all positive proactive throughout life's changes and stages, obviously. I also run my own business, Queen Consulting, where we work with careers, wellbeing and leadership across life cycles. So I work with students in schools, both after school and senior executives across all industries. So a lot of what I do is working with people who are at a particular pivot point or wellbeing challenge, a lot of mental health, a lot of physical health issues, those sorts of things, recovering and redesigning. And I do a lot of strategic work with organisations and education around how we engage our staff and how we maximise our staff. So 25 plus years in change management, talent management, mergers, acquisitions, those sorts of things.
No. Before we change, unprepared question for yourself and for everyone else in the panel to start thinking of. Favourite Star Wars character that actually sums up sort of how you see it all. Like, who's your Star Wars character? Because I'm going to completely judge your entire view of how we roll out collaboration based on who you pick.
Then you're not going to like me because I haven't watched Star Wars and the only character I know is Yoda and he speaks gobbledygook from what I know.
Well, quite the opposite. He's very wise.
I'll see you on Yoda then.
Very, very wise, very, very insightful.
Oh,
He knows what he's talking about and it lets us listen to him and contemplate on what he has to say. So that might actually be rather apt. How about we jump over to Andrew Sterling? Sorry. Andrew, would you like to... Andy, you prefer Andy?
Andy, yeah.
Andy, could you tell us a little bit about what you do? I know some of the people who we had in the morning may already be familiar with that, but for people who are new to the room, and let us know your Star Wars character.
Awesome. So my name's Andy Sterling. I work for BlueScope Steel, just down the road at the Port Campbell Steelworks. My role works in organisational development and I lead the portfolio around early careers. So my role is really to build collaboration between education, government and BlueScope. From an industry point of view, we've got a lot of need for engineers and STEM practitioners to sort of build the workforce needs for the future and the amount of investment that we've got going on. Star Wars is in terms of my favourite character and who I think is Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's the GOAT from a Jedi point of view. He's beat Anakin Skywalker twice. If you watch the recent Obi-Wan series, but I think he demonstrates, from a Star Wars point of view, the learning journey from being Qui-Gon Jinn's early Padawan to being he trained the best Jedi in the world and the chosen one.
Very good. You know what? Not only did he name that he was able to articulate quite well, he gets a round of applause for that. Well done. I think Obi-Wan teaches us, yes, to learn and play within the institution and also know when to go outside the box and do things that are a little bit outside the norm that are in the right way, the right vein to actually get the right result. So I like that. Interesting, outside the box. Now, we have the member for Oakley joining us as well. Is anyone local? Hands up if we're a local Wollongong sort of area person there. There you go. Minister, you've got a few potential voters sort of in the
right. Your geography is probably out just a little bit. The seat of Oakley is sort of Hurstville area, the St George area.
I went to university at New South Wales University, Oakley, when Oakley campus.
Oh yeah, the campus there. Yeah. That's now a high school. Yeah.
I just assumed that there was the name of the electorate down here. There you go.
No, it's about an hour away.
Yeah. So.
But you're close.
Yeah.
It's in New South Wales.
It's in New South Wales. We're all in the same state, and there are some South Australians in the room here, so we can just ignore them. We are all Australians.
Mark, are you able to tell us a little bit about your work, sort of obviously in Parliament, but more importantly, you're the Shadow Minister for quite an extensive sort of portfolio. Would you be able to unpack some of that for us?
Yeah, sure. So for those that don't know, I'm from Oakland. So I've held the seat now for 14, almost 15 years, and I'm the Shadow Minister for Industry, Innovation, Science and Technology. and have been the Shadow Minister for 2.5 years. I've been in Parliament now for close to 15 years, and that's a long time for anyone in Parliament. I want to probably just start with my Star Wars character first. And I was going to say Darth Vader, but no, it would have to be Luke Skywalker. And the reason for that is I think, and I do in my office have a massive sign that's probably this big and this tall that says Empire Strikes Back. And I think with Luke Skywalker, it's obviously never giving up. It's keep pushing and, finding solutions and, obviously with him and his character, it is a battle through every movie and every episode or show that I've seen. And my kids are Star Wars fanatics, I have to say. I've got 2 kids, Hurricane and Tsunami, as I call them. One's 11 and one's 6, but they are really into Star Wars. And I think if there was a character, it would be Luke Skywalker. But in my role as Shadow Minister for Industry and Jobs for that matter, and Shadow Minister for Multiculturalism, in the industry and jobs portfolio, I just see partnerships are so critical, and obviously unlocking, talent, creating jobs, translating research from start to finish into real world outcomes, I think is really important. And I've certainly been on this side of the Wollongong campus many times, and the similar innovation campuses in other universities as well. And I think that's the missing link here. It's the collaboration between levels of government and universities and TAFE, and pushing forward the idea from start to finish into commercialisation. And we've got some amazing examples of that already in Australia. But unfortunately, what I see is many companies are going offshore, and that's a huge problem. And that's where governments can play a part, industry can play a part in working together.
Negambi Nagan Greg, Yalanga Daronuru, Urianga, ni Merigong, ni Bubara Jiramo, Bubara Jambala, ni Garagan, Bori Bori Bubara. So it's Aboriginal Language Week. So obviously I'm in a room full of educators and you'd all know that. My name's Greg. I'd like to welcome you to Dharawal country, Dharawal Nuru, here in Wollonga, which is Wollongong. Merigong is what most people call the escarpment to the west of the city, and Bulbarajira is Mount Kira, which is very, very important, particularly to the women of our Aboriginal communities. And then we have Mount Kembla, which is Bulbara Jumbala. And then we're between Merigong, the mountains, and the sea. And at the moment, Bulbara, Bori Bori is the whales, and Gubara is dancing. So at the moment, the whales are dancing in Wollongong. So if you get a chance while you're here, get down to the foreshore. It's just incredible. And I'm literally coming off the back of a week of World Triathlon Championships. Obviously not an athlete, but it's been an amazing opportunity, and I think this book ends really neatly that week that we've had of collaboration. So for me, I've been very fortunate. I grew up here, went away and came back. There's a little GPS in us from Wollongong. Oatley will be the northern suburbs of Wollongong soon, because we are taking over the world as a people and as a city. But for me, I'm very fortunate to work with 1,800 people that call themselves members of the Wollongong City Council team. So we're a city that is a capital in the region. And at the present time, my job is about trying to make the organisation permeable, so people see that this is an amazing opportunity to come and work, learn and contribute from a public service perspective. And I think the relationship between you and the organisation that I work in is critically important. So we're not very good on marketing, so our ability to actually attract talent is an opportunity today, and that's part of the reason why I joined. And my character is Chewbacca. I'm not going to explain why. Maybe there's a likeness physically,
Don't
But
make him angry.
but I think Chewbacca maybe is misunderstood. Can be silent sometimes. Speaks many languages, but sometimes can read a room. I think Chewbacca is very intuitive. I think for us it's about putting us in the right position and the right place to listen. You know, to yarn, to be honest, and this is one of those. And for us to actually listen and hear how other people see us before we start to think about how we need to be. I hope that makes sense. So many of the collaborations, and I've got a colleague, Mark Grimson here, who is speaking a little bit later, but it's around industry. So BlueScope and ourselves, when BlueScope had a downturn in the late 80s, early 90s, the City Council created a program called a Cadets, Apprentices and Trainees and Development Program. And our enterprise agreement as an organisation shifted to ensure that we weren't award-based. So we had to be more than what existed because our friends and our colleagues were on hard times. So we needed to pick up, the development arm and then also the employment arm. So at the present time, we have 180 of our people engaged either at TAFE or university that we are sponsoring, which is really important. And I think part of the collaboration piece was that we actually had part of our business here on this campus. So we actually put them in the business incubator, which is unheralded that a local authority would actually see itself as a business and could benefit from being in an incubator. But there's one here about 300 metres away or 200 metres away. And I think that supported us. Working with TAFE in particular over a long period of time, in terms of also just understanding that we also play a role in advocating and not just sponsoring but promoting what each of you do. So for us it's about immersion. Other things we do at the moment is we've just signed an MOU with a renewable energies company called Green Gravity, which is about repurposing old mine sites for green energy. So we're putting ourselves in a position where commercially we also contribute to IP because we're probably the broadest church of employment that you can have in Australia in terms of, I have candlestick makers and, butter makers and ice cream makers and concrete makers in our organisation. And I think we don't open ourselves up to the people in this room to best understand how we can support you in your journey, but how you can support us in ours.
Mark, from your perspective, in a ministerial sort of aspect, what have you seen? What initiatives have you seen that have been, particularly powerful?
Well, I must say, what we're seeing at the moment is all levels of government working, and industry, of course, working with the Aerotropolis and Bradfield, and that's exciting. But I think the most recent, and it seems like it was 20 years ago, but it was only 3 or 4 years ago now, and that was COVID, where you had universities, you had levels of government, you had biotech firms working together, like AstraZeneca, for example, to get vaccines to market as quickly as possible, to get PPE equipment, etc., out to the community as quickly as possible. That was a mammoth task, and every level of government, state and federal, universities, as I said, medical biotech firms, worked together, rolled up their sleeves to keep Australia safe. And I was having this conversation on Friday with my 12-year-old, and it does seem like it was 20 years ago, but it was only a couple of years ago. And to get those vaccines to market as quickly as possible in a safe, secure way was something that we haven't seen before. But exciting now that, as I said in my first point, the Bradfield, the Aerotropolis site, where you have industry and industry partnerships with multinational companies setting their manufacturing or head office around that site, having all levels of government work towards that on the back, of course, the building the second airport, which will be a 24-hour airport that will open next year, which will be a game changer for not just Western Sydney, but all over New South Wales, in fact Australia, is something that is happening right here, right now.
What do you see as some of the barriers to actually engage with some of these industry partners or potentially sort of different levels of government. But what are some of the challenges and how do we get around those?
I think that's a loaded question for a long time,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
And how do
you
you
can
get
solve
around
that in
them?
the next
Can I fix
10
that in
minutes.
5 minutes? Look, I think there's a number of barriers, and people in this room would be able to share a number. A large part of what I hear from education around what the blocks are around engaging with industry is, first of all, access. So actually knowing who to speak with, how to get in touch with them, how to communicate with. Secondly, from my perspective, from what I've had shared, time. The curriculum is so academically dense and in many ways dated. There is no time for us to be able to bring in what we know we want to do and what we know is often the right thing for young people. Adding on to that is then paperwork. Don't we love paperwork, everyone in the room? Risk assessment for work experience, was just having a chat about that in the other room. Yeah, so all the paperwork, the regulations around that. And so then that comes back partially to a funding or a resourcing sort of perspective. So there's a number of layers which aren't quickly solved. But I do think if we were able to rethink and rewire how we resourced, and we were able to go back to Greg's point, which I thought was beautiful, listen, yeah? Listen with intent to hear, understand and engage, I think we can come up with some new ways of doing it, because we can't throw the school system up in the air. It's Titanic, right? It's a very slow change. But we're trying to bolt on a lot of things, and I would beg to say the people in this room completely on board, very keen to do it, will do whatever's required. Potentially, their leaders, their parents, their students, not so on board. And so we've got the people in the room with the hearts and the intent and the desire, but I think those are the common blocks to me of what's stopping those opportunities. And so even when, and I've got many, many examples of this for uni and for high school students, the facilitated structures there, I've got the job, I've got, the experience, and I've got the student, but actually the system won't allow it. So the system won't allow it because of insurance, it won't allow it because of funding that's required, because of other things. And I've got that where we're seeing uni students come out of a 4-year degree with 0 experience. No casual work, no work placement, no internship. And then many of them will be saying, I don't even know what to do with this degree. And that's a problem because of the investment.
That applied knowledge and that actual workforce experience is tremendous. And as I look out, I see a number of different people in career and pathways and career advisors and stuff like that in the room. And as you say, I think one of the biggest challenges is who do we reach out to? Like, I might be in a school and I want to go, well, I want to work with whomever. How do I even do that? One of the easiest ways is to actually tap into your career advisors. The career advisors have that pathway. They've got their statewide staff rooms. They've got a venue to actually ask those questions and see who said, I think when I was still in school, one of the absolute coolest things I was able to do, now, sorry, we'll go to BlueScope in a second. If you tap into the right industry expert, sometimes actually leveraging that experience is double heading with what you're trying to do. And I know one of the coolest things that I was ever able to help facilitate was some year 12 girls who were doing some work with web design and a different the digital design with their major works. And we actually tapped into Adobe engineers over in Silicon Valley, so in San Jose, and they actually ended up, I found a pathway from this person in Adobe to that person, and then the girls themselves actually got their major works reviewed and actually worked on by the actual product engineer of each of the Adobe suite for the different aspects that they're trying to do. So I think you'll be surprised when you finding the right person is hard. Once you find them, actually industry and government really eager to help the school, because they, just as much as you don't know who to talk to, they don't know who to talk to within schools to actually get stuff done. And that's why I thought if we pass over to you, Andy, from an industry sort of side, how do you sort of navigate that?
It's a really good question, and I think there's from an organisational point of view, you can get a bit of fatigue because you're basically you're getting asked by multiple different schools around work experience, emergent activities, careers expo. It can be hard to prioritise and make sure that you're covering all your bases. So what in my role I've found is to utilise some of the networks that are already established, like the Illawarra Careers Advisor networks, the Careers Advisors Association, but more locally, the REAP offices and the regional industry employment pathways. For me, it's a godsend in terms of it gives me a single point of contact. So I've got the REAP officers who are covered all of the schools, and they will help me understand what the needs of what the educators' needs are, but also gives me an opportunity to talk about what our needs are. And an example of that might be work experience. Like I get work experience requests every week, and as a high risk work organisation, it can be challenging for us. But students and educators are crying out to get into the industry, to taste the industry, to see if it's something that they want. So last year, with our Illawarra Academy of STEM Excellence and Workplace Learning, we were able to get some funding to do a STEM Immersion Day. So that's actually taking the 100 keen students that were interested in STEM, bring them into the industry, run some workshops for them, give them an immersive tour of the steelworks, and really show them what it's like. Have a networking lunch with our cadets, with our apprentices. It wasn't just Bluescape as well. We invited other industry collaborators through our supply chain to come in and talk about their careers as well. It was very informal. Those sort of things are really important. So utilising the existing networks around REAP has been really helpful from our perspective.
I think at school, at high school, one of the most important jobs of many teachers, and I'm going to be careful what I say, I'm married to a teacher and we love English teachers, is the careers advisor. Particularly now. I remember going through the system almost 30 years ago now, and unfortunately for me, our careers advisor was working towards retirement, and the advice that she gave me was go join the army. It wasn't for me, and it never happened. But today, and I as I said, I've got 2 young boys. One's about to start high school next year. It is a fast-moving, fast-paced environment, and jobs today aren't even heard of, and industries that will be created over the next 20 or 30 years, again, are industries that, for many of us, we haven't heard of today. And they used to say for a young student or for an individual, they'll have 5, 6 or 7 different career moves in the space of their work life. Well, now it's probably 2 or 3 times that. And of course, another not buzzword, but everyone does talk about it, is of course AI. Our kids, our teachers, and I see this with not just in my industry and who I work with, but on the other side of the breakfast table, my wife, and the introduction of AI in the classroom and students for that matter, where a few years ago, students were told to ignore it, don't touch it, and now being told to embrace it, and absolutely need to embrace it. Teachers as well are embracing it, but it's the upskilling of AI, for example, not just for teachers, but for everyone out there, to be part of that conversation, to see what the extraordinary thing of AI can do. And we as members of Parliament, in fact, have got an all-day course on Friday, all of us, of where it's heading, not just in our workforce, but in every workforce, and what we can do to embrace it for the benefit of everyone, and ensure that, more importantly, no one is left behind.
Greg, if I was to go with you, we might look around and then Minister will finish back with you again. If we get collaboration correct in the years moving forward, what does that look like from your perspective?
I think it's a pre-workforce prepared for the workforce. That's one of the things. So, how we do that together, the navigation. So how an individual can navigate from that continuous education, understanding that you're not leaving it, you're going to continue with it. And then there's also the element of making sure that as employers, we're really understanding the demography of the people that want to come and, or that those people are, really important. We have to actually immerse ourselves in what they need us to be and, really look to lean in and meet in the middle as opposed to thinking that, you've got all this talent that you're growing and I'm just the employer at the end of the line.
There's a whole teacher technique. Meet your students where they're at. Catherine?
I see it slightly different. I totally agree with what you said, but from a different perspective. Because I see shifting from burnout to engagement. And that's for industries, for education, it's for everyone. I think there is a massive issue in terms of mental health and wellbeing challenges in schools, in industry, across the board in society, and definitely within our young people. And I think if we can make that shift to connect the purpose at the deeper level, it will alleviate so much stress. It will make teaching so much easier. It will make transitioning people into the workplace so much better, and it will make the employment landscape better because we will remove so much of what's there. That's my.
Andy, your thoughts from an industry point of view?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. I think in terms of inspiring the, talent and youth talent of the future is providing, these individuals are going to be part of a generational shift in STEM, a generational shift in how we use energy, how we create energy, how we make steel, in fact. So providing that there is a really bright future if we can get collaboration right.
Perfect. And Mark, I've built it all up so we finish on the pinnacle of Kemper Grange here. Like we're right up the top of the mountain. Your thoughts on collaboration if we get it right?
It's a win-win
What
for
would that
everyone.
look like?
You know, government's
It's a
got to get
win-win for everyone.
involved, business got to get
Government's got to get involved, business got to get involved, council, local industries, manufacturing, everyone has a
big enough, and
part
everyone's
to
got to play
play.
that.
And the cake is big enough and everyone's got to play
And
that
governments
important part.
are not always the
And
answer, but
governments
they play a
are
part.
not always the
in terms
answer,
of
but they
funding
play a
and
part in
support,
terms of
ensuring
funding
that
and
industry is
support,
growing,
ensuring that
collaborations
industry is
there
growing,
with
ensuring that
university and
collaborations are
TAFE
there
and
with
so forth.
university, TAFE and
Critically
so
important.
forth.
I think you've got a
critically
really good
important. I think
example
you've
of that
got
right here,
a really
right
good
now,
example of that
in
right
this
here,
building,
right now.
where, as
in this
we
building,
said
where,
before, that
as
you've
we
got all-
said before, that
you've got levels of
you've
government,
got
you've got
all
all industry,
you've got levels
you've
of
got
government, you've got
university and
all
education,
industry, you've
all
got
playing a
university
very
and education,
important role.
all
But
playing a very
I think
important
moving
role.
forward, and I've
But
seen this,
I think moving forward, and
you know,
I've seen
when you
this, I
have
think,
one
when you
or
have
the other take
one
their foot off the
or the other
accelerator,
take their foot off the
things get wobbly,
accelerator.
and I think it's really important
Things
that
get
we
wobbly, and I
continue
think it's really
supporting
important
every
that we
level of
continue
government, every industry,
supporting every level of government, every industry, every
university, every TAFE plays a huge role.
university, every
ensuring
TAFE plays a huge
you know,
role in ensuring
we're
that
not taking our foot off the pedal, and
we're not taking our foot off the pedal, and we continue supporting,
it's win-win
continue
for
funding
everyone.
because it's win-win for everyone.